Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week we're back on the bench for Morrisons. See you in a minute. Now, it's been far too long since I was working on this. If you can remember that far back, I almost can't. I've got the back made, but I was working on the arms over a fairly long period of time, but then I got bogged down by everything else. Too many shiny things, too many new projects, too much else going on in the world, and it's taken a bit of a back seat, and that's not really what I wanted to do. So it's time to knuckle down and get working on it and see where we can go to get this thing on the way to completion. Now, for the ends of the benches, I've got some material that's been dropped off at the Men in Sheds shed. They are 4x3s, I think, that come in with pipes from stainless steel pipe work from Italy, I think, and they dropped us 25 of these off the other day, and we've pretty much used them all on the crib and one or two other things. But they'll be ideal for the upright at the back, on the side and the front, because there's a bit of carved shaping going into it, so I can thin it down a bit. It'll end up as 3x3 but with a sweeping bend in it. So I'm just going to cut these down to 1 metre. Just marking the arms out. They are shaped with a rounded end and then a bit of a dish where your arm will sit on the armrest, and then they go straight back. So I've just stuck some pins in the right sort of places. I've done the rounded ends with a can just to give me the shape, and I'm just now putting the line in that I'll cut to on that. Well, I've got the clearance, so it's now a matter of finding out whether or not we've got the power to cut this sort of timber. It's a softwood, it should be okay. Well, it's slow, but I think we're going to get there, and it will give me a good base to start with as far as working with it's concerned. I'll probably see if I've got a slightly coarser blade, because I'm cutting down along the grain now, so I'll probably get something with a few less teeth that'll clear the stuff out. It'll probably cut better. So the short answer to that is no, my bandsaw is not really up to doing the long grain cutting. I could probably get there, but I think I'm going to risk burning the motor out rather than just taking this thing down and putting on the big bandsaw down at Men in Sheds, where it'll just rip straight through this. I've curved the ends, that's a start. I just need to get this long cut down either side, so I'll do that. I'll mark out the back as well. There's a back rail and a front rail that have got curved parts on, and then long cuts down them. So I'll get all of the 6 pieces, get the sort of roundy bits cut, and then I'll take it away and do the others down at the shed. I'm just taking these down to Men in Sheds and cut the pieces off to give the slight scallop in the arm, and I've just been sanding them up now, so they're becoming quite nice pieces of wood now once you start and get past the rough outside. So that's the 2 arms done. Now I'm going to work on the back, do the same sort of thing, mark them out, do most of the cuts here on the tight curves on the bandsaw, take the whole thing down to Men in Sheds, and cut them on the big bandsaw down there. Actually, there's no need really to thickness and plane these because the sander has done a cracking job on them anyway. So they're almost ready now to have the roundovers done on them. I've got to do the tenons on the end and a couple of mortises in the underneath for the upright that comes up underneath. Had a good day at the shed again this morning. Got the sides all routed over on the edges so that the armrests now probably needs a little bit more smoothing on that depression where the arm sits, but that's done. I've sanded the main back support that's got the bend in it. I can't put the roundovers in that one at the moment because the arm is going to dock into that at a point somewhere in the middle, and it's slightly at an angle, so that joint there has got to be done first, and because that's the same width as the side, I don't want to do a roundover all the way down because then when I come to put that in it'll look odd. So I need to get that in first and then I can do the roundover, but otherwise that's done, other than the mortise that I've got to put in it and the tenon I've got to put on that. So that's that done. And then the front leg, got those again all smoothed up. They're done. I've narrowed those down. I put those through the planer thicknesser, so they are smaller than in width than the top rails, again to get this dripping of water off it rather than having it like that when you just get a water trap. So again there's another mortise and tenon got to go in there, and that again, that one's a straightforward one because it's a right angle job. So that's next one up. I think we'll do the same thing. We'll set the router table up, do a big tenon on the end of that, and I can just cut out and do a mortise in that underneath with a small template. Right, that's got the two tenons sorted on the end of the front legs. Done them by hand in the end. It's easier than using the router, and they are now ready to get mortises done in the top rails, and hopefully we can get the two to match. That's hogged the most of the material out. I can go in now with a chisel and start and tidy that up and get rid of most of the surplus out of the middle, and then I'm not sure yet whether I'll go in with a router and a template or whether I'll just use the chisel to finish it off. We'll see how easy or difficult it becomes. Yeah. I've cut the 10mm off that, and then with a mallet we can bash those in, and a bit of glue. I think that's got one of the legs in, front legs in. We'll move on to the other one and then think about the back. I've got both the arms of the bench now on the side panels finished. I've got the legs at the front finished, and I've done the joints on those with tenons and mortises, which are reasonably okay. They're still a tiny bit of fettling just to get them. There's probably a ½ or so here and there to lose on the joint itself, but I'm pretty much there. They're pretty much ready to glue up. The issue now is the joint to the back support, which is that one, and that one hasn't been rounded over because these come into it flush, and I want to actually get the roundovers to sort of work properly rather than going past them, if you see what I mean. You'll see when I get round to doing it. And it's fairly straightforward in that that should be a right angle. That's fine. And that also should be a right angle with the ground, but by the time the arm comes into the backrest, it's actually at an angle off that way. So I've got to get that angle right before I do another tenon, another tenon on that and a mortise in there, and I need to get those levels right, and it's quite difficult to do that in here with nothing much to work on. So I'm just going to move into the garage, get it onto a flat piece of plywood where I can mark right angles and draw up lines, things like that, and make sure we get it all dead right, so that the angles I've marked out here, which I think are the right angle to be fitting into there, I want to make sure they really are before I cut them. Now I've got to do the rebates on the back of these chair arm supports into the back leg, and unfortunately it's at a strange angle, so I've propped the end of the upright up on some plywood so that now that will be a vertical straight drop down with the rebate to do the mortise. And I'm just going to take the edges out with a small drill and work my way inwards once I've got that done. That's it. Now I can go back in with a chisel and tidy that up and start and get the rebate fully finished. Right, that's got the first mortise done. Not the prettiest in the world, but the beauty of mortise and tenon in something like this is that the majority of it will be hidden. Right, I've finally got round to making a start on these tenons for the arms of the bench, which I've been dreading doing because there's a lot of strange angles in things. Because the back is sloping away, the shoulder has to be slightly on the slope, and I've been dreading getting a nice clean joint between the back support and the arm, and I think I've achieved what I wanted to. I haven't got this to fit yet, but I'm not too worried about the actual tenon and the mortise itself. It's that joint that I was worried about. What I've done, I've set the angle on the chop saw, on the miter saw, got that angle right, and just done a very small shallow cut there that just nicked the edges. And then I've laid it flat on the bed of the saw and run that cut across, top and bottom again with a very shallow cut, and that has given me an established point between there and there on the other side, where I can then do a hand cut, which I've done with the very small pull saw, so that I know it's dead flat all the way around, and I didn't want to have to start messing around with the miter saw to turn it around to a different angle the other way, because chances are it wouldn't have quite worked. This has worked quite well, so I've got that. Once I've done that cut, I could then mark out the end of the piece for the actual tenon itself, and then I've cut in with the bandsaw vertically, and again I've got strange angles on here that I've just worked out and done most of the work with the bandsaw and finished off with the handsaw. And apart from a heart attack when I tried to put it into that and found it was miles out, and realised that that is on the bottom of the arm rather than the one I'm trying to get to, that is now nearly right for that. It's slightly too big, which is brilliant. That's exactly what I want. So I'm just going to clean up the actual hole. I mean, it really isn't that far off. Just going to clean it up with a chisel and get that fitting as nicely as I can. That is much better than the previous efforts I've made, and getting that line cut all the way around first has been the answer to it, because it's nice and flush all the way around. That will be okay, I think. So that will make the whole leg up like that. So I've done the same as I did on the back. I've used the cheats way of making all my tenons, but if you use a test piece and set it up properly in the first place, it means you get repeatable results. All of those are the same length, shoulder to shoulder, all the tenons are the same size. Right, I've succumbed to doing these old school rather than getting the router out, because there are differences between obviously the thickness of that piece and that piece. I'd have been messing around with the jig, so I've done all 8 of these now by hand, and it has to be said, I think the quality is improving a bit. We're getting a bit more consistency in the way these things work and how they go together. So what that means now is that I've got the top rail and the bottom rail in the side of the frame, which go together quite nicely. And they fit on top of that piece, I hope, which has also had the same treatment and which also seemed to have worked out quite well. Those should glue up nice and tight, and then we've got the top piece to go on as well. Bit of a jigsaw puzzle really. This has to go together in a bit of all at once, I think. I might just put the odd bit of easing into some of these joints purely and simply to get the glue in, but yeah, I think that'll be pretty good. But yes, I think that's well on the way to being ready to glue up. I'm just going to I'm not sure whether to do the roundovers on that first. But that's it now. We've got the rail for the seat. That's got to have a scallop put in the top of it so that the seating slats will just sail over the edge and come down, and then there'll be a piece on the actual seat part which will bolt to it through there and have a front rail on it as well, so that will just give me the seat, which is the next piece to move on to. But I'm quite pleased that we've got that done, and what's more, that we've actually got two of them done, and what's more, they're pretty much the same size and same heights and everything, so that seems to be looking fairly good. Right, that's got the ends done as far as I'm concerned. They're not glued up yet because I want to get all the sanding done while it's easy to take apart, but I don't see it being a major problem because everything seems to be going together quite nicely just by holding it together, if you like, so I don't think there'll be a huge problem with gluing it up. I've just done all the roundovers on it outside so that I've got this roundover running into the arm, so and we can keep a flush joint between the arm and the back when it's clamped up. So I'm quite pleased with that. It's time to move on now to the seat part of it, which we can do in next time we visit the bench. But as far as this is concerned, I'm pretty pleased that we've got the ends done, and I think that's broken the back of all of the joinery work, if you like. There was quite a lot of work in that back, but most of it had been done with router and the router table to make sure it was all the same. There's been quite a lot of hand work in this one with forming all the mortises, and I think it's fair to say I've improved as the job has gone on, and it's quite nice that the thing just pushes together quite solidly now. So I hope the video is of interest. Look forward to seeing you next time when we'll be doing something different in the shed. I'll see you then. Bye.